Hey guys, welcome to the Wild Bits Show. I'm Upamanyu,
And I'm Meghna.
and we have got a great show planned for you. It's Throw Off a Baby Puffin Off a Cliff season in Iceland. We'll be talking about that, which is our headline topic. It's not as dangerous as it sounds, but we'll see how things go when we discuss. And also, a COP30 summit in Kolkata has raised some critical alarms for Sundarbans Delta by erosion and rising sea levels. Those are the different concerns that has been raised. We'll talk about that. And what else do we have, Meghna?
So, we're going to talk about how the African gray parrots have gotten complete protection in DR Congo. I'm so sorry, gray parrots. And then And then we're going to talk about a few species that have been discovered. So there's a new bat species from Western Himalayas, and there's a green snake with oh god, I don't know what's happening today, but green snake with mustache. They were discovered in Brazil. So two new species have been discovered, and then if we have the time, then we'll discuss a few more interesting topics.
Cool. All right. Let's get straight into what is the headline topic of this week. It's an article from National Geographic, and it's titled "It's Throw a Baby Puffin Off a Cliff Season in Iceland." Now, it sounds very ominous, and what are these guys doing? But
But
it's not as
I would also want to throw a baby puffin off a cliff.
it sounds like if you are one of those person, yeah, it can be fun. But it says the article says in, I don't know how to pronounce this name, but I will say Vestmannaeyjar. So in Vestmannaeyjar, Iceland, young puffins known as pufflings embark on a perilous journey from their burrows to the ocean without parental guidance. So a lot of bird species do this. Like as soon as you hatch and you reach like a certain age or certain like number of months, etc., um, the parents just leave you to your own devices. A few bird species do that. A lot of bird species definitely, um, take great care, like penguins or albatross and other seafaring birds. But puffins is one of those seafaring birds, um,
Even
which,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. That is true.
um, which get left. So they have to figure out the flying and how to get the food for themselves. Obviously, the parents help through. Again, I don't know the exact number of months or weeks, but parents will help through some amount of time, and then they're left to their own devices. So that's what's happening here. So they embark on a perilous journey from their burrows to the ocean without parental guidance. Each summer, the community rallies. So the community in West Manivar rallies to assist these vulnerable young birds, as seen in Halsbjörk Oscars. I don't know. Again, these words are very foreign, but I'm trying my best to pronounce them. But this probably is the name of that town. Residents actively search for lost pufflings, even undertaking unusual feats like climbing tall structures. Hundreds of townspeople, including families, participate nightly in August. I mean, it sounds like fun, and I'll just share my screen to show what it looks like. So this young girl is basically throwing the puffin off the cliff, and that is sort of that kickstart or that inertia that when sort of the natural instincts for the puffin I assume, is kicking in, and they are sort of flying into the ocean. Like that fight or flight moment is kicking in when it's being forcibly thrown into the ocean,
So
or towards the ocean.
I think I was reading up about this. So it was basically because the parents don't have guide, like don't aren't there, so they don't have the proper guidance to go to the cliff. So a lot of times, because they do not proceed towards the cliff and they're going towards some other side, then they get really confused by the town infrastructure and lights, and they do not know how to get back towards the cliff. So in that case, these residents pick the puffins up and then they take them to the cliff and then they throw them off the cliff, and I think they have a natural instinct to fly when you throw them off the cliff, but they need that push because of they're a seabird, and they get like they get lost. So as a little chick, you're like lost in this big city, so the humans are like picking them up and they're like, okay, go to the sea, go to the sea.
Yeah, it reminds me of the kind of stuff we do with turtles, right? The
Yes,
little hatchlings that
exactly.
it's exactly like that. It has a tendency from the beach to go towards, because they follow the moonlight. Um,
Yeah, so
Again, that's an interesting fact
they say that the
there.
land is always darker than the ocean, which is true. Like when we're ever next to the ocean, like the beach will not be visible, but the ocean is still visible. So
Hmm.
for all the animals as well, like the ocean is more visible, so when they see city lights they get confused and they think maybe that is brighter, so that might be the ocean. But
Right.
the only difference between the turtles and the puffins is that we don't throw the turtles, but we throw the puffins.
Yeah, but we do like guide them off the roads by the beach, right?
Yeah,
So yeah.
we release them in a way that they only go towards the sea. So yeah, even in turtles we do that, just because with the hatchlings it happens a lot of times that they get confused in the night with the city lights.
Yes, and I think that's sort of the crux or the gist of the matter there. That due to these introduced city lights and introduced sort of human habitat, um, that's the reason the natural cycle of these wild animals is being broken basically, and that's why we have to sort of give them that initial push to be able to for their survival instinct to kick in, and then they are fine from there. Um, so it
Yeah,
says they, yeah.
and I think the thing is that because the local residents are doing this, so this is one of the reasons that the puffins that what I think reeling towards the edge of extinction now, they have like a fighting chance because the
Mm.
residents and the humans, everyone have joined hands in conserving them.
Um, Yes, and I think this article has a lot of videos included here as well. So this is sort of a scene from that cliff face where the shuttle is basically bringing people and taking away people, I assume, from that site of the Puffins, bringing the locals and bringing them back to the mainland. I assume, yeah, and the article goes on to say that this tradition is vital in West Manivar, home to the world's largest puffin colony, which is good. Despite their numbers, Atlantic puffins are listed as vulnerable, making this annual human intervention crucial for the species' survival, particularly for the at risk Icelandic population. So, yeah, I think this is like a pretty and I think Meghna and I, when we were planning and writing the script, we were discussing this. That this is there's this pattern that we see almost every week. Meghna, do you want to um,
Oh,
elaborate on that?
like like what we talk about. Yeah,
Yes,
I
like
I think I think there'll be like two news of someone like completely like destructing the entire area. So usually like big corporates and governments, and then we would have another story of someone doing really good for the animals. Then we'll have two stories of people doing something bad for the animals. So it's just a cycle of oh yeah, like we're protecting here, then we're destroying here, and then we're protecting here and we're destroying here. So that is pretty much what you see in wildlife news. um yeah, like
Yeah, and
I
I
think
think
we're at the stage now, at least when we were younger, I think we used to just talk about behavioral qualities and how the animals behave, and it was just like this, what would you say, like a happy-go-lucky phase. You just thought everything in this planet was great, so you just saw these behavioral videos. But now when I see people making behavioral documentaries, I feel like, yes, they're important, but it also makes me really angry that why are you not talking about protecting them, or why are you not talking about doing something for them? So yeah, now it's
yeah,
come
and
to
I
this.
think these kinds of statements, making the annual human intervention crucial for the species survival, particularly the at-risk Icelandic population. These statements can be like blanket statements with like replacing the name of the species, name of the place, name of the population, etc. So that's that's really sad that we have to do it. And then also, like, the reason we don't have um, the awareness or the media exposure for these kinds of, or like larger media exposure for these kinds of stories, is because this is not brought to the front of mind for many people. And as we have repeatedly said, that's what we are trying to do here. That's why we are streaming to all these different platforms. That's why we are streaming, and then we are publishing it as an episode, etc., etc., so that we can get these topics in front of more and more people. Um, and I think that's the bit we choose to focus on. We have a discussion question here. What inspires communities to go to extraordinary lengths to protect vulnerable species?
I think, at least for me, in this case, I think the puffins and humans have lived there for long, and the puffins are probably birds that are cherished there, as opposed to how people like really hate on pigeons, and they're like, oh, the pigeons just come and poop in my balcony. But in this case, I think
I
they're
mean, they
really.
are pretty annoying, you know, rats of the sky, as they're called,
No, they're really
pigeons.
cute, but obviously, I mean, the world is their toilet, so you can't blame them. But yeah, but maybe the puffins don't do that. But like what they say in the article is that for as long as anyone can remember, the locals have been doing this. So there is no documented evidence of how long they've been doing this, which is amazing. But also, I think the locals realize here that it is because of the town's infrastructure and lights that the puffins are getting confused. So they, I think, feel like there's a moral responsibility that they have towards the puffins, and then they gather together and as a community release the puffins. And in this exercise, they basically inculcate into the young children that you should take care of the environment, you should give back to nature. So that way it's amazing that at least these children are learning young that, oh, we need to go out, we need to save these puffins, this is what we need to do every year. So that, I think, is amazing that this community is doing.
Yes, and I think this also helps that they have managed to turn this into this annual event where it doesn't feel like important conservation work they're doing, but it more feels like just something that they are enjoying as a community, as a people, which I think adds to the enthusiasm with which people come to it, because it's not just, oh, we're just releasing these puffins because it's important conservation work, but it's a tradition. And if it's being held for such a long time, that means it's just into the lifeblood of that community. But also, I can imagine, like, after this whole thing, they would have like little drinks, or some food, light food, snacks, that type of thing. It's a good way to socialize with people. I think, yeah, all those aspects, in my view, um, is why this particular community is going to that length, in order to do this as an annual thing. And it's a great way to sort of give these birds a head start um, in their life, and ensure that this process sort of follows on through the generations. Yeah, Meghna mentioned the kids, the photographs and the videos that are in this news piece is mostly kids, doing what the adults are doing or following what the adults are doing. So yeah, it's great that um, you know it's being
Yeah,
inculcated, that thing.
the thing is it's very easy to mold a child, and I think
Mm,
as opposed to other places, when communities get together, they usually get together for killing animals or to
mm,
inculcate killing some kind of animal. So like in New Zealand, I remember when I was making my documentary on possums, I came across books for children that taught about trapping possums and hunting possums. So for me, it was preposterous that you're going to teach a kid to hate on an animal from that young. And similarly, I think there are other community events across the world, like in Faroe Islands, the grinder trap, or the grind that they call. They
mm.
round up dolphins and they round up pilot whales, and they distress them into coming and come close to their shore, and then they kill all these pilot whales as a community. Like all a lot of community people come together, and they kill all these pilot whales and these dolphins in the name of a tradition. And at one point of time, they used to do it for food, but now it's just community and tradition. So I think that is where the community and tradition role play have to change. If it is something that's doing good for the environment, then we need to inculcate in our children. But if it is something that's not adding to the environment, does it and is instead taking away from it, then we should not inculcate those in our children. And we should also reflect back and see as a community if we should actually be encouraging such kind of acts.
Yeah, that's yeah, couldn't have said it better. Like both are communities, like you gave the example of Faroe Islands. Both are communities, local communities, small communities. One is celebrating the, you know, new life, and the other is celebrating the end of life. So that is a stark contrast that yeah, we should
Do
sort of
you
pay.
do we want to share a few pictures of the grind from Faroe Islands to just show? Obviously, viewer discretion is encouraged, because I don't think the pictures are very pretty.
Yeah.
Sea
Um
Shepherd does a lot of exposes on this, and I'm hoping that someday, because of Sea Shepherd putting in so much effort into it, we could see the Faroe Island community doing something better than just driving pilot whales and dolphins into distress and trying to kill every last whale and dolphin around that area.
yeah, I think I'll just share this image. Otherwise, the platforms might flag our videos. But this is like after the aftermath of the grind, and yeah, and you can be pretty certain what has caused this ocean to go red. So yeah.
So
Um,
if we share those pictures of how the dolphins have half of their head cut, we get flagged.
I'm not sure because Google is already flagging some of the
Oh,
pictures.
I think that's because you have certain firewall things. Wait, let me
No, no,
find.
but it can. So yeah, this is what happens to the pilot whales and the dolphins. And yeah, the ocean basically turns red with all the blood that's released. Now, again, this is I can understand like it's a tradition and how strongly people can rally behind tradition, but that's what but I was saying that is one kind of tradition, and this is another kind of tradition. And I think it's
I'm
pretty
just
easy to make that judgment call.
I'm just
um
going to share once. Just I found this Sea Shepherd article on it, but
mm,
there's a video, and the video shows the and it says graphic content warning.
yeah.
We are in the Faroe Islands, and we have documented the deaths of 43 whales during a grindedrap, the traditional Faroese hunt for pilot whales. After a 3-hour drive home to the beach, every whale was hooked in the blowhole and dragged to land. The whole killing took probably less than 10 minutes. Suddenly, the whales were alive and swimming, and the next moment, they were just lying dead in a sea of blood. It's one thing to see the footage, but when you're there, the smell of the blood and the cry of the whales being slaughtered is just something that is very difficult to forget. We saw a baby whale that was very young. It still had this fetal fold from being curled up in the womb of their mother. One of the whales was pregnant. The fetus lay in the cold concrete. The fetus was not eaten. Around 10 p.m., everybody that participated went to get their share of whale meat. They cut all the carcasses and distributed the meat between the villagers. The next morning, all of the carcasses were loaded in a truck and taken to a different island and just dumped into the sea. Sea Shepherd is here to ensure that no kill goes unnoticed. Help us end these slaughters by supporting Stop the Crane.
Yeah, I think that was a very difficult video to watch.
Yeah. Um.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So I think that's the choice there that we have. Um. You know, which kind of tradition do we
Want to support?
yes, and which kind of tradition do we want to pass on to our children? Both are traditions, and I know like it can be very difficult to let go of tradition because your whole identity is tied to that, event and the tradition and whatnot. So, um, I I can understand the the reason people might not want to, you know, dial back or might not want to let it go or might want to just hold on to it as long as possible. But with the plight of of nature, and as things stand now, if it was a different time, if it was a different amount of humans on the planet, if it were like 2 billion humans instead of like 8, or 4 billion humans instead of like 8, a lot of these things would sort of kind of make sense because there would be that balance between how much we are taking and how much the nature is replenishing itself. But since we are at this point in time where we are definitely taking more than nature can sort of replenish itself. Yeah, these kinds of tradition then come into a very bad light, and we have to kind of rally behind stopping or trying to stop these
and
kinds of
and I think the thing
things.
is, I think the thing with traditions as well is that you have to see if it is relevant in today's context and world. Because, like, let's say even in India we grow up and we hear a lot of superstitions that were relevant at some point of time. Okay, and I'm not talking about wildlife, but there are these kind of superstitions that people still follow. One being that you should not cut your nails after sunset. That is because long back there was no electricity, so you did not cut your nails after sunset because you could hurt yourself. So there were a lot of these superstitions that have kind of
I mean, even in
carried.
wildlife, like before going for into the jungle, do all these kinds of things, carry a metal thing or whatever. I don't know. Um,
No,
all these things.
those are not superstitions, but I'm just talking about how traditionally some things that kind of overflow into our current world. So with the Faroe Islands and the tradition, and something that I think Oops and I were talking about a few episodes back, humans disconnect with nature. I think we were talking about how when you're a child, if you're taught compassion and if you're taught how to love animals, then you kind of grow up with that, or you grow up with that love for nature and animals. So the kids in Iceland who are throwing the puffins, they would grow up to love animals, and even if they go outside Iceland somewhere else, I'm pretty sure that they would have that kind of compassion for animals and birds. But if you grow up seeing killing and hunting, and you're encouraged to do that, I don't know how much of that would translate to you opposing it or you getting conditioned to actually love animals.
Yeah, and I mean that's the whole thing, that the identity of that people get so much deeply tied, rooted in in those traditions, and I can understand it from my perspective as well. Like, I certainly have a few, even like routines, in individual lives. I want some certain things in a certain way. Um, those ultimately, if become traditions, if you follow a routine or a thing, repeatedly for long enough. Um, so I fully understand where they're coming from, but also, as Meghna was saying, this is not the time. This is not. Um, it's not productive in any shape or form. It's not super valuable in any sense of form. Other than it gives you the sense of community. It gives you that sense of belonging in those communities. But I think, yeah, that's not a good enough reason to
and
continue doing this.
and at the same time, I sometimes think, like, at least, what I've always read about serial killers is that they actually practice on animals first, and it
Mm,
goes unnoticed, and then they come and attack humans. That is when they get noticed that, oh, there has been this gory death by
mm,
serial killer. So if you're going to teach your children that it is okay to just like chop an animal, see the blood coming out, and just watch it or whatever, you do not know if you're actually encouraging them to become something more dangerous than it could.
mm,
Now, I'm not saying everyone will turn out that way, but I don't think it is easy. Like, even a lot of meat eaters, and I think we've spoken about this again multiple times in different episodes, that eating meat is different than actually chopping the animal. Now, the ones who actually can chop the animal are very different. But if you tell someone who buys their meat from a supermarket, give them a live animal in front of them, give them a knife, and tell them chop it, they will not
mm,
be able to do it. So it is not something that's easy. So it is not something that we should be inculcating into the future generation.
mm. Yeah, but I mean, the Puffin story, again, it was very interesting for us to sort of read this and get to know about this. But this is the kind of traditions, this is the kind of things that we need, in order to give wildlife and nature a fighting chance, at least, because with the way that we're exploiting, it really seems bleak, at times. But this gives us that hope, that good kind of hope that things are um, things are has like we have the power to make things better. Yeah,
Yeah. I think,
cool.
and I think that that is what is important, that you need that active mix of happy stories in this bleak world, and the community and the children being involved, and all of them going and running around is just a great picture for me. It just makes my heart happy that this is what the community is doing together. But talking about great happy stories, I think it would be a good time to segue to our next story, which
Absolutely.
is that the gray parrots in Congo's DR um, have been granted complete protection. Now, the Democratic Republic of Congo has issued a national decree banning the capture and trade of African gray parrots effective August 13 this year. This protects the species heavily trafficked for the pet trade. Now, anyone who has seen these videos of parrots, the gray parrots, have you seen those? There's this one
Mm.
gray parrot that it's really famous, and it can make all these sounds, like the jet
Vocalizations.
sounds, yeah, the sounds of a rocket, jets, water, everything. I don't know if you've seen that video. It's like this one gray parrot is extremely famous, and she, like, that gray parrot can talk in whispers, then again talk normally. It
Mm.
just is amazing to see that video. But obviously that might have also inspired a lot of people to get gray parrots home, because parrots are known to talk, parrots are known to socialize, so people like having parrots as pets. But now what has happened is their populations fell down because everyone wanted them as a pet, so they were heavily trafficked for this. So despite being endangered and being on the site's appendix 1 internationally since 2016, the DRC previously continued exports under a reservation. to the global sites listing. So they found a loophole through it, like the same way that Japan files a loophole for its humpback whale hunting. It says it's research. So here they've used reservations. Um, and some shipments even rose above the pre-ban levels, so with up to 70% mortality in the trade chain. So imagine you're
Hmm.
sending 100 birds and 70 of them in the supply chain might even die, so there's only 30 birds that are alive wherever you're trying to send them for this trade. So which is why I think it was very crucial that, one, that the levels before even the ban, they were rising to the mortality levels, and three, they are really vulnerable at this moment. Despite that, people have been doing this. So I think this is a great move. And I think Oops and I were talking about how Congo comes in the news a lot. Like, it would come for one good news that, oh, it has this Kivu Kinshasa corridor protecting a large area. Then there would be another news of oil mining. Now again, the African grey parrots is a great news. So I think Congo keeps juggling between doing controversial things and then doing great things.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, and I think the thing also there is um gray parrots and any kind of pet species that we, except for um dogs, cats, horses, and a few other species that we have intentionally domesticated. um I think the exotic pets, as they're called in the pet trade, I think it's um yeah, it's one of those things that you see someone having that maybe on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. They are very notorious for inducing that FOMO feeling, and then, oh, they have it, I also want one, where can I get one? And that sort of, then you're entered the cycle of um you know you know increasing the demand, which increases the you know poaching efforts, and so on and so forth. So it just goes into that cycle. And gray parrots, unfortunately, and parrots as a species, like as a family, is an incredibly intelligent family of birds. There's a parrot. There are a couple of parrots in New Zealand as well. Very intelligent. There are Kias. There which who are like one of the most intelligent birds out there. Like corvids, parrots are very intelligent as well. So that's why it's and their voice box is very, very versatile. So that's why they can sort of vocalize a lot of these different sounds. They can say, even like, say names, and sentences sometimes, and things like that. Parrots and parakeets, their vocal sort of bandwidth is very incredible. So those things makes them a lucrative pet. um yeah, and I think that's that's the thing we have to restrain ourselves from doing. um you know the person posting that video of the parrot talking might have rescued it or might have bought it. We don't know. But then, whenever it's shared with the world, everybody wants one of them. And there are thousands and thousands of people who will have the economical, you know at least the economical or financial, you know they'll have the financial power to get one of these parrots. So yeah, it's that vicious cycle that we enter into.
Yeah, I'm
And
trying to find like that gray parrot video to just show people how amazing gray parrots can be. But the only thing is,
yeah, so um yeah, I think also we also don't understand that, okay, maybe we are taking the species
oh, I found
from
it.
oh, did you?
Okay, let me just show you this video because I think this will blow your minds if you have never seen this video. Wait, let me just play it.
Einstein, are you excited? Oh, everybody your name. Oh, she's getting ready. She's got to clear her throat. Can you tell them your name? Einstein. Yes, Einstein. Say hi. Can you say hi? Hello. That's nice. But be polite. That's sweetheart. That's much better. Okay, let's start off with some animal sounds first. Can you do? Okay, got to clear your throat. Let's do a wolf. Good. How about a bird? Can you do a bird? Good. Can you do an owl? Good owl. How about a rooster? How about a penguin? Can you do a penguin? It's a little bitty penguin for you. How about a chimpanzee? Good job, Einstein. Can you do a pig? Sometimes they get chunky. You think they need to go on a diet? How about diet? There you go. How about some tigers from the jungle? Yeah, they growl. What about a skunk? Stinker. Okay. Let's do some sound effects too. Spaceship. Good. Good. Spaceship with the laser. Yeah. Can you fall down? There you go. A little splat at the end. Does that hurt? Ow, ow, ow. Yeah. Maybe could you whisper? That's good. How about evil? Good job, Einstein. Let's sing some opera. Let's sing some opera. There you go. Can you toot? Oh. Ooh, Einstein, this is a lot of hard work. Is this a lot of hard work? Yeah, it's going to wear you out. But we're not done yet. What do you think? No. No, we know more. How about fiesta? All right. Go crazy for everybody. Can you go crazy? Go crazy. Woo! All right, she loves to party. So can you just get down? Let's get down. Come on. Yeah, there you go. That must wear you out. You need something to drink? Here. No, you don't drink beer. You drink water. That's much better. All right, so you have to wait till later because I have a problem. What's the matter? What's the matter? You lost my dog. Can you call the dog? Come here. Come here. Good job, Einstein. I don't see the dog anywhere. I don't want this to be boring. You be boring. Oh, yeah. Well, we all love you. We know that you're famous. Are you famous? Superstar. Yeah. Okay. What do you say when it's time to go? Bye. Bye-bye, Einstein.
Yep.
Einstein, everyone.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, again, this is not to say that you should go get one gray parrot, seeing this, but obviously that was, highly trained and highly, but yeah, their voice boxes give them that bandwidth to vocalize all these different things that they did.
And their amazing brains that can process and learn these. But
Yes.
my only objective of showing that video was that African grey parrots are amazing birds, and this should be a recall for you, just like it's a recall for me. When I talk about African grey parrots, I remember that video of Einstein. But at no point...
No, but Meghna, tell me this. This video is very manipulative, right? Because if the African grey parrot never existed with humans, they wouldn't be this amazing. Like, you wouldn't know how amazing they are. Like, how much, like, what the bandwidth of their vocal cords are, because they would do none of those things in the wild because they don't need it for survival.
Well, I don't know. So see, the whole point is that one, there are two ways to do this. Now, obviously, if people were researching them in the wild and they noticed their behaviors, there could be maybe groups of grey parrots, and they might have different vocalizations, just like how we found out about whales in the wild, that they have different songs. Like different whales have different songs. So initially they thought that all whales just sang, but then they started seeing how groups had. So we do not know if in the wild we did enough research on grey parrots, what kind of vocalizations we would have come across.
No, I mean, definitely. Definitely. I'm saying they might have the best vocalizations in the world, but they would not be entertainment. Like they would not serve as entertainment in the wild. I'm pretty sure of
No,
that.
no, I'm sure, I mean, their whole way of using it would be for themselves, but it wouldn't be for
Yes.
entertainment. Obviously, we
No.
exploited them for that. But the whole point, the thing is, obviously, people kept gray parrots as birds, and these kind of videos, the one that I showed, led to more people getting parrots because they believe that, oh, like parrots are so social. My dog doesn't talk to me, at least my parrot will talk to me. I think that's what people feel. Somehow, people want like this anthropogenic feeling even in their pets, like they
I,
want to be able to communicate with their pets, they want their pet to communicate with them. And it's not enough that they communicate in their own language or in their own behavior. A lot of people want that extra, like oh, I want to be talking to my
no,
pet.
I think that's a human need that only is growing day by day as we are getting, farther and farther away from each other, where we are getting isolated, and humans as a species, we are not meant to be alone for longer periods of time. So we have that innate need, and I think some of these things can grow from that need, having a dog, having a pet, or having someone to talk to, or having someone talk back. Now it's the market of AI companions, boyfriends or girlfriends, is rising exponentially. There are literal services or chatbots that you can make, customize in ChatGPT or other LLMs as well, where you can sort of create this persona of a person, and then you can talk to them as if they were your partner of some kind. So that's already there, and that I think that need of having someone to talk to or having someone to converse with is oftentimes maybe the reason people get these kinds of pets and stuff. Yeah.
I think that could definitely be one of the reasons, but the second reason has to be that a talking parrot is something that people want, like just
Hmm.
because it's a talking parrot. So
Yes.
that could
Yeah.
be the thing. But I think at the end of the day, what happens also is that people don't take into account, just like how we spoke about the pink beach in Indonesia and people taking like a little bit of sand. So the same way with the parrots, I don't think people realize that, oh, if I have a parrot, then I see this video, I also have a gray parrot, I also have a gray parrot, and I also have a gray parrot. That you're endangering the parrots, that they're not meant to be at your home, they're meant to be in the wild, they're not meant to be pets. And I think, I don't know if we have discussed this earlier, but there are only two animals that have been domesticated over the years to be pets, and they're only dogs and cats. Any other animal that we keep as pets, we keep them because we can keep them as pets, but they are not domesticated enough to the extent that they would want to be pets. But dogs and cats have lived with us for so long, and it has been like a process where they have become our pets now.
Yeah, and it's an industry as well. Like we don't depend on wild population of dogs or cats for the pet industry to survive. But this is very different, where the only populations available are the wild populations.
And I think that the most disturbing fact is that through the supply chain there's a 70% mortality rate.
Yeah,
And
it's
like,
like
if that a shipment goes through once or twice, after that you need to rethink, right? I mean, where is the, even if it is an export process, where is the profit in it if only 30 birds are making it alive out of 100 birds that you're sending? So why is it lucrative? Why would you put the birds through that kind of stress? And why do you think it is a good idea? I mean, it's one that, okay, locally some people have them as pets, but they're being sent and 70% of them are dying just in transit.
yeah, that's what surprises me. Like how little of a margin, we will work on, how little of a margin we will work on, how little of, we said this with our the shark meat expose that we covered, same it was same there. Like the margins might be very very slim, but even for that slim margin, there's this huge fight over market share, and things like that. So yeah, it just baffles, like astounds me sometimes that the lengths we would go to gain like this maybe 0.1% margin, and things like that. So yeah, um
Yeah, and I
it
think
is
I
surprising.
think like trading with live animals in general is just really cruel to the animals, because they're not meant to be crammed up into small containers. They're not, and I'm not even talking about just the parrots, but in general, like all the pigs and the cows and the sheep that are also transported, they're not transported in a very humane way, and it's not great on the animals to be having to do that kind of voyage just because they can be on your plate or they can be in your home and they can be your source of entertainment or your source of food. You have to take that into consideration, that where do we draw the line? So at this point of time, obviously we have seen that the Democratic Republic of Congo has taken an active step towards banning, but we need to see if it actually, carries it through and sees that there is a proper, effective ban and there's no more trade in these birds, because that is the only way to save the gray parrots. And the problem is, if they do not act now and they do not act strictly, there might be no more gray parrots for them to even export.
Yes, that's the irony of the every situation like this, where we know that this is unsustainable, this is not good, but we still choose to do that. So um yeah, it's really interesting to me that we choose to do that. I can kind of understand the thought process behind it. I mean, every human will have that desire to, if they see something shiny, they would like, I want to get that as well. But then that's where our restraint and our, I think we call ourselves civilized. That's where our civilized nature should kick in and say, no, this is not something we will engage in. Yeah, and we have the discussion question, which is very interesting as well. Now that substitute species are at risk, like red-fronted parrots, should the decree be expanded to cover all parrot species commonly trafficked to ensure no backdoor use? What do you think, Mingna?
Yeah, I think this is where it gets tricky, because when you say one bird, then the people might be like, what else is there in the market? Is there any other bird I can get instead? Like, okay, I can't get the gray parrot because it is banned, but there might be some other parrot that's equally
Hmm.
intelligent, some other parrot that, would look great in our home and would be a great companion. And then the exporters and the importers find a loophole and they're like, oh, yeah, if we cannot trade in gray parrots, let's trade in other parrots. And this loop will always continue. So then the other red-fronted parrots would be at risk, and then when they are at the verge of extinction, then they would say, oh, let's ban them. But I think this ban should and must cover all parrot species or all bird species that are at the risk of being exported if the gray parrots are banned. And this ripple effect is always seen, because as humans, um, I think when we find certain animals cute, we also want them. Like, so this, I think, led to the what would you say, to these innumerable toy breeds and small breeds of dogs, because we wanted these
Hmm.
cute tiny dogs to carry around.
Lap
And this
dogs, they're
lap
called.
dogs, yes. I mean, dogs literally came from wolves. They were not meant to be like tiny and cute, and they were not meant to have respiratory issues like pugs. But yeah, but
But
yeah, that's
sometimes I think looking at the small dogs, I feel like in attitude, they're more close to wolves than like some of the bigger ones.
That
Um,
is true. That is true. I know once I saw this family and they had like three golden retrievers and they had one Dachshund, so the sausage dog, and the three golden retrievers would follow whatever the Dachshund was doing. Like they would just be behind, like in one line, and like it was almost like the Dachshund was its master. So yeah, in attitude, I think they have the attitude because it makes up for their size.
mm,
Yeah, I think you're like gifted something, but either way the thing is that people are obsessed with cute things. So when you give them a cute looking parrot, especially a parrot that can be trained into talking, then they would want a parrot. So even they will not get disheartened, or they would not stop getting a parrot just because the African gray parrot is endangered. They would try to find other ways of buying and selling parrots.
yes, and I think that's where the the enforcers of this particular protection need to be very careful that this protection would mean that there would be more trafficking activity for other different species of parrots, as Meghna was saying. And uh, yeah, that it would be best that if this protection could be expanded to the different species of parrots that are vulnerable and that are at a risk. But in absence of that, I think the enforcers of this particular protection should also pay close attention to what the happenings inside the forest and inside the different areas, so that they know that the trafficking activity has not shifted, or the trafficking pressure has not shifted from gray parrots to some other species, I feel like.
Yeah, because I think, even though gray parrots are amazing, and I think like this video of Einstein, it's really old if you saw the quality also, and it was on Animal Planet. I think it might have been at least 15 years old. Oops. I think
Mm.
so, going by how it looks as well. So maybe back then it
Gray
wasn't
Planet. What was that?
Animal Planet, it was an Animal Planet channel.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, yeah. This clip, you mean the gray
Yeah,
parrot
yeah,
clip?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That I think must
yeah,
be 15, 20 years old. So
yeah.
maybe
Absolutely.
back then the gray parrots were not that vulnerable. Back then maybe so many people did not want gray parrots. But with the advent of social media and how people pick on trends and everything, the demand and the supply has also increased. Globalization has happened faster over the last 15 years. So I think the gray parrots have been put more at risk now. But when you think of gray parrots, think of that great video that you just saw of a great parrot, but don't dream of having one in your house. If you really want to have a pet, then like get, I mean, I would say just adopt. Okay, please adopt, don't shop. In a country like India where you have a lot of stray animals, I advocate heavily to adopt. So don't go around shopping for your animal because it is your baby. At the end of the day, would you go buy a baby? No. So don't buy an animal either. So don't encourage having animals that are not supposed to be pets, that are vulnerable to be extinct, and get a pet that would be with you and are meant to be a pet.
Mm. Yeah, I think similar thing happened with this dolphin TV shows in the 60s called Flipper. And they trained this dolphin, and they that the on the show it did this amazing things with this little boy. And then everyone was like, oh, we want something like that. So all the aquariums across the states, they were trying to get one or many dolphins for themselves, to you know to get in more and more people. So that started sort of a dolphin craze in the aquariums, and the dolphin shows kind of took off after that show released. The intention of the showmakers, the filmmakers, might not have been this, but yeah, it's those unexpected consequences that you've got to watch out for, as well. We Someone commented on YouTube I think there's this film called Earthlings, which explores these kinds of topics. Animals being used um, as economic economic gain, or for pets, food, clothing, entertainment, and scientific research. I've seen the documentary. It's narrated by Joaquin Phoenix, and it's a good film to gain some deeper understanding into what goes on, and what turned this into this complete industry. Yeah. So I think those are the different aspects that we definitely need to you know consider before we take a step. It might be one photograph or one video that we post of for on our Instagram channel, but you never know, that might go viral, and then yeah, um, other people might want to replicate that as well. So
Yes,
yeah.
very, very true. So I think that is very important, that even if you see a video or you see something, do your research before you get a pet, and do not encourage such kind of trades where it puts the animal at risk. So right now the gray parrots are at risk, and we hope that we would have a more positive update for this in the coming few months, that this is actively enforced everywhere, um, and the sites and the UN and whatever other agencies, the WWF, work towards actually banning and making this ban permanent and effective, not just for the gray parrots, but for all the other parrots that are being traded, I guess, in a way that it puts them at risk for extinction.
Very rightly said. um should we pick up
Yeah.
another topic now, Meghna?
Yes, yes, it's a good time to segue.
Cool. I'm just thinking, should I do the uh, Delta one, or should I go and say one of the new species that was discovered? I'm just trying to find it.
I think we can go with the Delta one because we can talk about the new species later as well.
Yeah, cool. So this is an article from the Hindu. COP30 curtain raiser in Kolkata raises alarms for the Sundarbans delta's severe erosion and rising sea levels. If for those of you who don't know, Sundarbans is a mangrove forest that is based, or that sort of is in on the delta, um, between where sort of the river and sea meet. That's where deltas form. Every one of us know. And it's one of the largest mangrove forests in the world. It's a UN World Heritage Site. Most of the actual forest, or the larger part of the forest, lies in Bangladesh, which is a neighboring country to India, and but a huge chunk of it lies in the state of West Bengal as well, which is eastern state in India. So it's apt that this topic was discussed in Kolkata, which is the capital city of West Bengal and very close by to the actual Sundarbans. But the delta is facing a huge risk with rising sea levels. Now, these are the kinds of ripple effects that we have been speaking about. You have there's this one singular thing that is happening due to our actions, and that is causing so many different problems. So, rising sea levels and sea acidification, we talked about, you know, they're causing problems for corals, they're causing problems for sharks, and now this. So, the article sort of goes on to say that Kolkata hosted a curtain raiser for the upcoming COP30, attended by Pradeep Kemka, honorary consulate of Brazil to India, and Debashish Kumar, MMIC of Kolkata Municipal Corporation and MLA. During the September 3rd, 2025 event, Kumar underscored the immediate global need for decisive action in ecologically vulnerable regions like West Bengal, Sundarban, and Darjeeling. He emphasized intervention crucial to prevent devastating loss of lives and livelihoods. I think that's also another thing here in Sundarban, where a lot of people depend on the forest for their livelihood. They collect honey and they farm um, prawns and other things um, from the jungle. Um,
Yeah, but
so
I think Oops forgot one of the most important things from Sundarbans, the tigers.
yes,
Yes, the Sundarbans is one of those places where you can actually go in a ferry in the mangrove forest and hope to see a tiger um, in between the mangrove forest. So Sundarbans is that one area which is really unique because you have tigers living in a mangrove forest as opposed to anywhere else in the country. There's no other place, and you have to watch them from a boat. You cannot go on land. There's no safari for it, obviously, because if anybody understands how a mangrove system works, um, their roots are deep into the ocean, and then they have this sticky surface because the water is always around them. So the mangrove forests are kind of like, how do you describe how the sand feels like? The
it's
um,
very mushy and very quicksand like, where
yes,
you can sort of
and
yeah,
tigers are
and the
super.
mangroves will
Yeah.
have the aerial roots. That's what sort of sticks out from the, and they can get very hard, and it's very difficult to walk around um, in those um, in those
Yeah,
areas. But
but for the tigers, like the way they walk and the way they keep their feet, they're very elegant that way. So I think, which is why you have these tigers. So that's the one place which is really unique. You need to go in a boat to actually see the tigers, um and you may or may not have a sighting. So that way, Sundarbans is even more important because it is home to tigers as well.
yes, and I think recently the tigers in Sundarbans got described as a different subspecies as well. Swamp tigers, they are colloquially called, and it's also one of those places where the human animal sort of living parallelly is with such a big animals and such a apex predator like a tiger, um, living with them parallelly is sort of a daily occurrence there, and the closeness is, you know, as close as it can be in the Sundarban Delta. But as a mangrove forest which houses countless different species, and it's really a very evolved and very tight knit ecosystem, that that patch of forest is an incredibly one of those incredibly important things, or incredibly important spaces, where it's both preserving a huge range of um, you know sort of life cycles and ecological systems, but also it's a huge carbon capture mechanism as well. So um, it's one of those important, very one of the most important places, one of those few very important places that we must rally behind and we must conserve in time. As I said, it is a United Nations World Heritage Site because of its importance as well, and yeah, it's one of those things that faces a very um, you know immediate, and as the article goes on to say, um, immediate and looming threat, if not, if the actions are not taken immediately. And I think they I don't know if there is any immediate actions that could be taken to particularly protect the delta, but I feel like the actions are more in terms of like how we need to have a handle, because COP30 is obviously a global conference. Um, how we need to have a handle and how we need to effectively reverse the global climate change that is happening, and how these different nations can uh, work together to achieve that. Um,
Yeah,
so as
I've also shared a picture for the users to just see how the tigers look in the Sundarbans.
Yeah, it's a great site if anyone gets the time to go spend a few days there, even if you don't see a tiger. That's not
Oh, I thought for a moment I thought you were talking about the website that from where it's shared. So then I was like, oh, okay. But no, okay. You're talking about the Sundarbans as a site.
Yes, I'm talking about the Sundarbans. And I think the article also says there the main 2025 United Nations Climate Change Conference COP30 is scheduled in uh, Belém, Brazil, from November 10th to 21. And we'll definitely bring some updates what happens there as well during that time. But a central focus this year will be on translating climate discussions into concrete transformative changes on the ground, with a significant emphasis on securing and effectively deploying climate finances. The local call highlights the universal urgency of the global climate agenda. And I think this is what I was speaking about. Like, I don't know if rising sea levels causing this erosion and this decline in this habitat can like if there is any like direct actions that would affect that particular problem. I think it's more of a global change that needs to happen, and as this article says, you know, emphasis on changes on the ground. um that is the only thing that I think can help this situation, which is very sad to think
But
about.
I think the thing is obviously, and I think we've spoken about this. All these COP events are great because there's like a lot of discussion, but at the same time, I feel like a lot of governments and corporates, because everyone's only talking about or thinking about money, a lot of whatever is talked as at COP30 or COP, all these COPs are never translated into actually something effective. And that is where it becomes a problem, because we talk about change, but we're not willing to change.
Yeah, and I think that is that is a thing we have to sort of juggle as well, because obviously at the end of the day, when whatever we are discussing here, and you know, people might remember David Attenborough's speech from the United Nations Climate Change conference a couple of years back as well. But whatever we are doing or deciding in these climate events cannot just be that, okay, this we need to achieve this in 5 years time, and we need to achieve this in 10 years time, or whatever. Those days are long gone behind us. The 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 only discussion points I feel like of these conferences, or only agenda, should be that this is something we need to achieve by the next month, or by tomorrow, or by, you know, the end of the week, or something like that, which poses a huge challenge for any country or any government, because nobody is equipped for that.
But I think the thing is, oops, um one, even from these kind of things like the COP30 and everything, or these, climate summits that you have, countries can also choose not to attend them. Countries can choose not to
Mhm.
abide by them at any point of time, and there is no proper international law that kind of binds them into enforcing them. It is more like, we recommend you do this and we should do this and we must do this, but not like a, you have to do this kind of thing. So that is where the problem comes in, I think, with all these COP30s and other things, that even at a local level, at a community level, if you're trying to do something for the environment, if it doesn't translate into something big, then all your community level effort also goes to waste.
And also, I think if it doesn't translate um, into a economic or political clout you can get with the other people, like if it's not a win-win situation for governments, a lot of governments, or at least a lot of governments from developing nations, will, or economically challenged nations will say, "Oh, we have bigger problems that we need to worry about, bigger human interest problems that we need to worry about," and so on and so forth. So,
Yeah, and I think all the corporates, like in the name of CSR, kind of trying to build their goodwill. Like they'll do a little
hmm.
bit of CSR here and there, and then they're like, oh, we've done our bit, we have contributed our bit. But at the end of the day, they're causing more damage. But the CSR helps them with their goodwill. So they do that so that they don't have to like do the entire barrage of making a lot of other changes. But at the same time, and I think it's the same with the government, like whatever looks good or whatever can be done effectively to show that, oh, we're doing this thing, and then it generates some goodwill for them, they will do it. But ultimately, nobody right now understands, at least I think the governments don't understand that we're at this stage that we need to stop talking and actually start doing.
Oh, that yeah, it's like a given, and that's what the speech that David Attenborough gave a few years ago. I feel like now, was that you can't just sit around and say we'll do this tomorrow, or we'll think about this, or we'll start thinking about this. That's like the default position of a lot of governments and dignitaries that attend these kinds of. Oh yeah, yeah, this is a, you know this is very important issue, and we will start thinking about this very soon. So yeah, I think yeah, there is no way you can wait around and say we'll start thinking about these kinds of issues. It's like right now, you have to decide that what you want to do, and you have to sort of get the plan into action. And that's, I can understand that's very challenging for governments. It's a very new paradigm for governments. Um, yeah, it's nobody is equipped. No government is equipped for that, especially like a lot of the smaller nations, a lot of the developing nations, a lot of the economically challenged nations, as I said. Yeah, uh, and I think also uh, the these these issues, if they're not very imminent, humans, yeah, we have discussed this before as well, we as a species, we do not have that capability to focus or take action on something which is not very imminent. So yeah, we have to offset whatever, um, we we find always find easy ways to do things. There's this thing called carbon credits. Do you know carbon credits, Meghna?
Yeah, I think we try to be like, oh, buy these carbon credits to offset your carbon. If you're traveling in the
Yes.
flight, you buy these extra carbon credits. If you're traveling, if you're doing this, then buy these extra carbon credits. So they want you to kind of pay the extra money for something that they're
No, no,
doing.
no, no.
And
Do
in
you
a
know how it works though? Do you know how it works? So there are these companies who sell carbon credits. Now, what these companies do is they plant some trees, and they say that, okay, we have planted this number of trees. Now we have X number of carbon credits available, which is equivalent to whatever carbon emissions the trees are, theoretically they will capture. So they put it on the market, and then the corporates and sometimes individuals as well, they buy those carbon credits. It is a way for them to feel good about themselves, that okay, whatever we're doing, we're offsetting it. But it's such a, I don't know, it's such a bad way to go about things. It's such a capitalistic, such a, yeah, human way to go about things.
But
We've,
I think that is what we want, right? We want someone else to do the dirty work, and also we want to say that we're doing something good. Like,
yes.
you know how people, the same thing that we spoke about, when people now use paper straws, then they say, oh, we're doing something great for the environment, not realizing that that is just like a small component. But that is where we get happy. We do a small thing, or we buy a carbon credit, and we're like, oh, we're doing a lot for the environment. And this is where I think the our social conditioning and how the government and everything else around us makes us believe that even if we do the least possible, it is fine. And despite believing all of that, despite knowing how the climate has been changing and how the hurricanes are stronger, there are more floods, there's all of this climate change that you can see, that the seasons are changing. Despite that, we believe that no, it's fine, we don't have to do a lot for the future generation. People keep having children, and they don't care about how the children and what kind of world they will be brought up into, because you are responsible as well, right?
Yes, and I think these are things that we have to think about at least. Again, we are not advocating for whether you want to have children or not have children. That's entirely your decision. But you have to consider all the different things and make a choice for yourself. And the sensible choice, in our opinion, is not to bring any more humans into the world. But you do
For
you.
I mean, yeah, and for the main reason that what kind of world are you bringing them into? Certainly not this kind of world that's burning. And you might not be able to see the burning because you stay in a city and you think everything's great, but the world is burning. So, you have
Mm.
to take that into account. And this is something where I think, shows like ours, or articles or other documentaries have to do that kind of awareness, so that people understand that life is not, like, the world is not all rosy. It is really suffering, like the earth is suffering.
Yeah, and hopefully we are able to get those conversations front of mind for you know the listeners of this show. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, Kick, anywhere, or if you're listening to the recorded version, yeah, we hope that we're bringing that conversation front of mind, and then I think that we consider our job as science communicators. We consider ourselves responsible to a certain extent to be able to bring those conversations out. And yeah, as long as we are discussing, as long as we are asking the policymakers to, favor policies which support this kind of change rather than going backwards, as is happening some governments around the world, not naming names, but yeah, as is happening in some governments around the world as well. We do not walk backwards. That's sort of um, that sort of things. And these climate conferences, don't get us wrong. Like, these climate conferences are incredibly important to get people in the same room discussing about the same thing, discussing these imminent issues. But I also think that these need to be more action oriented and less planning oriented.
That is true. That is true. And I think no matter how much we talk about this, obviously we can't get things to change at a rapid pace. So we have to wait it out and see how it would change and when it would change. But I think that is a good time to segue to the next topic.
100%. Do you want to pick the next topic?
Yeah, I think we're going to just lightly touch on two species that have been recently discovered. So one, there's a new bat species that has been discovered in the Western Himalayas. Um, Let me just get the article up for you guys to show you how the bat looks. Uh,
So researchers have confirmed a new to science bat species, the Himalayan long-tailed Myotis himalaicus, from India's Western Himalayas in Uttarakhand. Um,
yeah,
it's
One second, I'm just sharing. So yeah, this is how the bat species looks. Wait, let me get its face up. Yeah, there it is. That's how the bat species looks, and this is a new bat species. Now, obviously, a lot of people in general do not understand a lot about bats. And they in general fear bats, and they think that bats bring disease and bats are not good and bats stay in caves and everything, but bats are a really important part of the ecosystem. Um, and as opposed to how people think that bats are blind, they're actually not blind. They have really really bad vision. That's why they use echolocation to locate
Hmm.
their prey. It's not because because they are blind. They're not completely blind. And there are some birds that actually do not even rely on echolocation, like the fruit bats. They can actually see. If you've ever seen a fruit bat and you've seen those videos of a fruit bat eating a banana, um, you would actually fall in love with bats. Like, I mean, literally, it looks like a dog. If you have the time, I will definitely share that video. Otherwise, it's for another day. But this is the newly found bat species in Western Himalaya. Um, and bat researcher Rohit Chakravarti first encountered these bats during his PhD fieldwork in 2016-17, collecting DNA samples. And initial genetic analysis showed considerable difference from other Myota species, but a detailed morphological study was crucial. 5 years later, in 2021, Chakravarti finally caught an individual, noting its distinct features like a bare patch around the eye and a heavier weight of approximately 7 grams. And collaborating with Uttam Saikia, another researcher, detailed examination of its external cranial, dental, and baculum characteristics conclusively identified it as a unique species. This important discovery highlights the rich yet unexplored biodiversity of the region and contributes significantly to scientifically understanding bat species. So I think this is important. Like, even though we're trying to save actively all the species that we know, but it when we find out that there are new species, we also, I think there's this wow moment of, oh, we're still not uncovered and we've still not discovered everything that is there. We just assume that we know 60%, so 60% must be 100% in the wildlife world. But it is not so. Like, every day we come up and we have new discoveries and new species. And that is when you know that, okay, like, there are these different species and these different habitats and these different behavioral patterns. So that is also very important when we talk about protecting, because
Ye-
sometimes we blanket protect a lot of species, but we do not realize that there is a lot more diversity amongst that species.
Yeah, and I think the last line of this article, this important discovery highlights rich yet unexplored biodiversity of the region. This really speaks volumes to the crux of the matter, to the gist of the matter, and to what the actual thing is, where there are a lot of undiscovered species, and those species, we don't even know how climate change is affecting them, and those species might go extinct without us even knowing that species existed in the first place. So that's a very you know very poignant place or poignant thought to have, and that these species, because there are so many undiscovered species also, we need to protect those ecosystems and habitats as a whole, for these species to be able to thrive and survive through the next
Yeah, and I think
generations.
one of the things is we should stop villainizing a certain species, because I mean, I
That,
don't know,
yeah.
it's really weird for me that people go crazy over Batman, but they don't like bats. I mean, the
Yeah.
entire premise of the movie and how Batman was that, I mean, he used to go and work in this bat cave, and then that's where he thought, okay, maybe my name should be Batman. But we revere the
Yeah,
person and the superhero.
and I mean, Spider-Man literally got bit by a spider.
Oh
Uh,
yes, yes.
you know, um, but still we sort of are afraid. And all
And we'd
kinds of
swat a
nice.
spider, like we'd swat a spider and we'd try to kill it. And we never think that, oh, maybe I can also be Spider-Man or I can be Batman. So this is where it gets really interesting, that the superheroes are something that we really enjoy, but we do not enjoy like where the name comes from and the animal that has it. But I think maybe I'll just share this video of a fruit bat and get you to change your opinion on bats. Let me see if the sharing is happening. Yeah, the sharing is happening.
So Mr. Batzel and I have just come back from a rescue. We picked up Mr. Forrest here. He's in a filthy mood. So he was called in by Colin. Colin found him low in his grevilleas this morning. So I think what's happened is that he may have come in to feed on the grevilleas and there just simply wasn't enough room for him to take off. It was quite a small yard. So he may have hit the house. But there's no injuries on him. See if you like another bit of name. There's always room for banana. There's always room for banana. So he'll be in care for a little while. He's got no injuries. There's nothing at all I can find on him. Everything's working well. So he'll have a little holiday in care until we're sure that he's not concussed or that there's no issues. And you can go home. You can have as much banana as you... Oh, he's cranky. Cranky boy. So I don't like you people. So he's a big old boy. He's been around the block a few times.
Yeah.
He's very strong as well. Didn't take too kindly to being captured, so we had to...
So that is basically a fruit bat that actually relies on fruits. But for anyone who has seen this video and for anyone I've shown this video over the years, they've always been like, oh my god, that one looks like a dog, you know. So this is where I think it's really important, at least if we have to get talking about species, even if you don't like the bat that was discovered because it had tiny eyes, at least we can get you to like bats by seeing this video. And any positive change helps, like as long as you see this bat and you think of bats in a positive way, it helps. And this bat, at least the video that I showed, is actually from a bat sanctuary, and this was a rescued bat. So it's not a pet bat. Please don't get ideas in your head that you can get a fruit bat in your home and then feed it a banana like this and it would look really cute. But yeah, like, you know, that's where the conversations should change, that no animal is evil and no animal is trying to wreck the world. The only
Yeah.
animal is humans that are trying to wreck the world. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't think no animal, like any animal, sort of deserves that sort of treatment. And even if you're scared of, like, you can be scared of something and also want that species to survive and have the best chances at life. Both things can be true at the same times. Be scared of whatever you're scared of. We are not saying, like, I'm scared of a lot of things,
Sharks.
including sharks, and but I still care what happens to them, and I still care if they live on, if they have that best chance in life. The only thing you probably can forget about is like cockroaches and stuff. Yeah, swat as many cockroaches as you want.
No, no,
But
no. So, okay, talking about cockroaches, basically, do you know why cockroaches are considered pests in the city? Is because we took their predators out. So, when you made a
yeah,
city,
yeah,
you kind of took the snakes and the frogs and every other animal that basically probably ate a cockroach, even mouse and other animals. So, you
yeah.
got
The
rid
the
of
reason
their
I
predator.
the
Yeah.
reason I say it is because cockroaches survive, I think, 2 or 3 extinction events, and I'm sure they can survive through whatever we put them through. So forget
Yes.
about cockroaches, but other all the other species, even the tiniest of the tiny,
No, no.
to the
I mean,
to the greatest.
even with cockroaches, I would say that just learn why they're overpopulating and why they're a pest. That is only because of our urbanization and because they're really resilient. So it's like the same thing with the seagulls and the pigeons, that they are resilient and they adapt, and certain animals cannot adapt when you
Hmm.
develop. So
Yeah.
you have a problem with the animals that are actually resilient because you can see them, and then the other animals you are actually have a little bit of compassion because they couldn't make it.
I think we feel like we are the humans are the only ones who can be who have the right to be resilient and be so adaptive, and no other species has that right. But yeah, I would personally say forget about cockroaches, but other species, yeah, definitely, very important. Even if you're scared of bats, doesn't matter. I mean, you might not want a bat in your home, and I can sort of sympathize with if a bat enters your home, or a, you know, some kind of creature enters your home, you want to get it out, but that doesn't have to be at the cost of killing that, or poisoning
Yeah,
that or whatever. It
yeah,
can
like
be, there can be a more managed way of getting it out of the house. Yeah.
yes, compassion starts from your home. Um, and it's really easy to not kill something and actually just leave it outside your home, instead of trying to, just kill everything that comes your way. But talking
Yeah.
about the bat and this new species, there's also another new species. Do you want to talk about the
Mm.
green snake with a mustache?
Sure.
Mustache.
Green snake with a mustache discovered in Brazil. Unique traits revealed through DNA. And I think DNA, I feel like I need to say this, but DNA is such an important and powerful tool that now that we have access to it, I just wanted to say that previously overlooked 34 inch, so about 2 feet, sorry, about a little more over 2 feet long snake, green snake found in a Brazilian museum collection has been formally recognized as a new species. Leptophis mystacinus. Latin name's difficult. Nicknamed the mustache snake, its most striking feature is a bold black stripe across its snout, a characteristic absent in other parrot snakes. So I believe the parrot snakes is kind of the family there. Distinctive markings including long dark um, post-ocular stripes and narrow green side stripes, along with specific scale arrangements and tooth counts, further differentiated. Researchers led by Diego Santana of Federal University of Mato Grosso do Sul confirmed its novelty through comprehensive morphological analysis and DNA sequencing, particularly the 16S gene, proving its genetic divergence. Published in PHA in January 2025, this discovery underscores the remarkable biological richness of Brazil's Cerrado Nevada and savanna, and emphasizes the urgent necessity for its diminishing habitats protection. I think both of these um,
I'm
discoveries
sh-
comes down to that. Um,
I'm sharing the screen so people can see it. I don't think this photo
yes,
is really great, but in this photo, I don't know if it's really visible, but actually, like, there's a line just above its snout, and there's a black line just going above its snout. So that is the mustache that they think it is. Like the so I don't
that's
see the mustache, but I think I have to assume that is the mustache.
yeah, and also you can see the post-ocular sort of behind the eye, those long stripes as well. That was described as the post-ocular stripes. Um,
I think here
yeah,
where I've expanded, you can see like just below its eye, you can see like this line going from its snout to its
yes,
eye.
like differentiating the green part and the white part.
Yes, so I think
Um,
that's what they're trying to call as the mustache, which is
yes,
cute and funny, but also it's a little tough to like kind of see okay which part. So I had to also see the pictures and be like okay, and then I had to read back, and I was like okay, that's the mustache that they're talking about.
yeah. And again, great discovery by this team led by Diego Santana of Federal University of Mato Grosso do Sul. But I think both of these articles end on the note by saying that this is the richness of this these ecosystems is still undiscovered, and we must try our level best to protect these vulnerable ecosystems, and it's now more than ever, it's very, very important. So yeah, I think both of these articles is, alluding to that fact. um
Yeah,
and
and
so
I
much of
think,
it is we don't know.
and the thing is, even though we share this planet with all these amazing species, we're only just about, I think, unearthing all these new species. So we need to take that into consideration, that this world is a beautiful place and we do not know every inch of it, and we have to conserve it so we can know all these beautiful species and try to conserve them and live alongside them. So if you're going to just like chop chop chop, develop, we're going to be the only species surviving, and we wouldn't have any other thing, and we would just be in this entire climate crisis because we don't have nature and wildlife to depend on.
Very truly said, very rightly said. um
So
but
I
very
think,
interesting. Two
very
discoveries,
interesting.
two new species, in a span of like a couple of months. Very, very
Yeah, and
interesting.
different areas of the world, so really
Different
nice
areas
that
of the
way.
world.
Yeah. uh Oops, we do have time for one more topic, so which one should we pick up?
Um, yeah, your choice. Which one you want to talk about?
mm, okay. So there is an article about how a Tamil alphabet chart that represents local biodiversity, culture, and nature is educating children.
Hmm,
So, in
that's a good one.
wildlife biologist P. Jagannathan of Nature Conservation Foundation (NCF) observes that school children are far more familiar with exotic animals like ostriches and giraffes than common Indian birds such as the miners, crows, and sparrows found in their own backyards. And I think this is also one of the things that has happened because of the globalization and cross exchange. Um, like, oops, do you remember when we were growing up? At least in my school, the language choices for us were either Hindi and Sanskrit when we were,
Hmm,
I think, in our you know when we were growing up, we did not have any exotic choices, but now
hmm,
I hear all the kids have options between like French and Spanish and different
hmm,
global languages. So I think this is where it's happening, because we're like, this one global world. We are now teaching about animals that are far across the world, that you might never see an ostrich or a giraffe in your life, but you would read about it in your book. But you do not even know what the mine or the crow or the sparrow found in your own backyard, what it is called, and its significance. Like, for
hmm,
people who do not even know, sparrows are a very, very good indicator of how balanced your environment is. So if the sparrows have disappeared, that means that your environment is not great and it's not balanced. So as opposed to pigeons or crows, sparrows are not as resilient, and I've seen that happen in my own backyard. We don't see sparrows anymore, but when growing up we used to see sparrows, which means all the development has led to the sparrows just disappearing from this area. So sparrows are sensitive that way, even though they belong in urban, uh, you know like in an urban setup. Even the smallest changes can cause distress to them. So this is something that we need to teach children. Like, even though we're teaching animals across the globe, which is great, and I think we need to have that kind of education as well, but your own backyard, if you do not have knowledge on that, then somewhere there is some problem, right? Like, you need to first respect your local wildlife, then to have respect for other wildlife.
yes, I think also like knowing what exists in your backyard. I feel like there has been a lot of I remember this TV show that was produced here in New Zealand, which is called Our Big Blue Backyard, which basically was an educational show again, educating Kiwis about the marine life, the rich diversity of marine life that's here in that exists in New Zealand. And I think a lot of those things often um, go untouched in schools. For example, as the article rightly points out, you might learn about giraffes, ostrich, and all these other exotic species, which is, yes, it is important to learn about those species as well. but also on top of that, like the local bird species and local species, you have to have that information for you, uh, like for to again to instill that idea of um, protection and conservation from a very young age for children, right?
Yeah, so like the person, this biologist basically said that he highlighted a concerning lack of local environment awareness, noting that children often fail to identify the noisy birds around them. So, I mean, you go into a park or you just wake up in the morning, you hear this chirping noise, and I think this is one thing that oops is something really special, because I feel like when you're in the city and the chirping noises you hear are so different to when, like, let's say when I go in the mountains in India, and then when I'm
Mm.
in New Zealand I hear different birds. And this is actually one of the things that defines environment for me, the sound of birds. So it is actually really sad that the children cannot even distinguish or know which birds that they're hearing. Like it's something that you really want to know, you're like, oh, this is the sound of this bird. And that actually creates the land environment for most people, the chirping of birds. So if you're not able to identify that, that I think is really sad, that you're not even focusing on the local sounds that are most obvious. So for
Yes.
this, the wildlife biologist, what he's done is he's tried to increase local awareness by collecting the accurate Tamil names for these plants and animals. And he's aiming to create educational charts or books. And he emphasizes the importance of correctly identifying these indigenous species to foster a better connection with local biodiversity. So this is obviously local to the state Tamil Nadu, a southern state in India. So in there he's trying to foster the connection through language. So because in India, wherever you're locally, you're often in school taught the local language in addition to English and any other language that you would be picking. So because of that, I think what he's trying to do is, at least if the children are not picking up these familiar names from their English textbooks, at least from their Tamil textbooks, they will know the local names, and that might foster a better connection for them.
And I think it's beautiful that this is being done. I see some images of what I assume to be letters from the Tamil alphabet. None of us can read or speak Tamil, but um, what I assume is a Tamil letter for this butterfly, or for this hornbill as well. Yeah, it's a good way of both connecting to your the language you've got to learn, but also knowing the names of these local species through through what feels like what like giving this to children, or having a chart of this up in the classroom won't feel like you're forcing them to learn something, but at the same time it's front of mind all the time because it's right there, and that way you sort of get that understanding very organically, without even like thinking about it.
Yeah, and I think one of the things is, obviously, we talk in English, and we oh, that's the dugong.
Yeah.
We talk in English, and we want, English is now the global language. But at our home and with your parents, most people talk in their mother tongue, so whatever
Mm.
is their mother tongue. So to kind of foster that connection in your mother tongue is important, because then I think you have that connection to your homeland through your mother tongue. And to foster that connection and to know the local species and the local names might actually make you have more respect for those species, as opposed to maybe just learning it off a textbook and learning it in English. So because these are these birds and animals that these children probably see in their daily lives. So then you learn the name, and then you foster that connection, and then you foster the connection with other locally found species. So this is really important, I think. To foster that connection locally, first always know your species around your area, and then go around learning species across other areas. That is how you would respect the environment, because you have to learn to respect the environment around you first before you start fighting for, let's say, the African grey parrots.
Yes, and I think it's interesting that dugongs have a name in Tamil, which is Aulia, and a lot of these species, that means that the locals have figured it out, and I love how the images, at least which are shown in this article, and I believe there might be more of these, doesn't only go into into the megafauna or like one particular branch of the biodiversity present. It goes into marine mammals, marine animals. It goes into insects. It goes into birds. It goes into like
Trees.
trees. And all sorts of different things. So flora and fauna, which is very commendable from my perspective, at least. So I think this is a great effort by the wildlife biologist. I forget his name, P. Jagannathan.
Jagannathan.
P.
Yeah.
Jagannathan. And yeah, I think this is again a model that could be replicated across a lot of different other places as well, right? Doesn't necessarily have to be something that only sticks to Tamil Nadu, which is great, but lot of other places around the world. And I think there is something, I can't really put a finger on it, but there is something very profound about learning about these local species in your own tongue, which you speak most. Um, yeah, it builds your
Yeah.
connection with your land, with your language, but also builds connection through that language, because obviously language is the most important tool that we as humans have. It's such a powerful tool. So it builds your connection with your language, your mother tongue, but also to, the local biodiversity. I feel like this is a great idea, and I wish it all the success.
And I think what happens is, um and like one time I actually went to this one project in Tamil Nadu. It was called the Cuckoo School, and
Mm.
what they were trying to foster in the local children was to just learn from the environment. Instead of having like proper books, they were teaching them permaculture. They were teaching you how to be in the forest, how to learn about the different species. And
What's permaculture?
so permaculture is a way of growing your what do you say, your plants and your uh, yeah, your plants without, so it is like a very organic way of growing them without pesticides and all. So it could be this way of growing them round and round, or it could be a different way, but it is a very organic way of bringing plants up without the use of pesticides and without the use of
Mm.
chemicals and without the use of fertilizers. So you kind of use the earth to help grow your plants, and it is a very novel way of growing, and it is not talked about a lot, but it is a really great way of learning how to grow your plants. So
Mm.
yeah,
I mean,
so
that's the original way of growing things, but we have corrupted the whole ecosystem with our pesticides and things, so it's a very novel way now, I guess. But yeah, no, it sounds very interesting. I didn't
yeah,
know
so
that.
they were doing a holistic approach to these farms, and then what they were also doing was, apart from that, they had all these lessons, and they had these accommodations made in a way that like the air could just pass through, so you don't need fans or anything. And in the night,
Mm.
they told us to kind of like switch off our, not take our phones along, so you did not have any light. You just your eyes get adjusted after a little while, so you had to just kind of depend on whatever natural light you were looking at. And then they took us to this like riverbed where they were just like, the river was flowing and you could see the fireflies in the night. And you actually respected that whole thing, that we do not let go of our phones, we do not just walk in the dark. And we did not realize when we came back from this place that we had walked across a really narrow bridge, because there was a moat, so the elephants did not come into this
Mm.
part of the area. But we walked across it and we were confident about it, because we just, and this is what they told us, that we become so dependent on everything that is granted to us, like light and other things, that as humans we used to be able to see in the dark, and we don't do that anymore. We just don't trust ourselves anymore with the dark. So these what they also told me was this one really interesting story, that these researchers had come to research on a bird in the nearby forest, and they went around looking for that bird for days together, and then they came across a local child, and they asked the child if that child had seen the bird. And this child
Mm,
immediately went to this one tree, and he banged the tree with a certain pattern, and that bird appeared. So local knowledge of knowing how a bird like, so that child literally knew how to call that bird, or
mm.
what calls, like what causes that bird to come. So the researchers couldn't figure it out because they were not from the same area, but they were trying to research on that bird. But the local knowledge is very important, and that is why that needs to be propagated. And that school was one of the schools and the projects that I saw, which was amazing, that they were trying to propagate everything that was really natural and that you should know as children, instead of all the bookish knowledge that we keep passing on.
Yeah, I think that's an important point, and I think projects like this just go towards that same goal and same establishing that sort of same culture as well. It is very interesting that yeah, as we have discovered through our wildlife travels that we have done, is local knowledge is unparalleled. Even the guides that we take there will contact with a local guide that stays there. Because nothing beats you having access to the forest every day, and you can go in there every day. um you know uh, However close we stay, even if we are in the same country, that local access and local knowledge, as you pointed out beautifully through the story that you told, yeah, it's just unbeatable. So I think, yeah, some of these children might take up careers in wildlife conservation and wildlife, biology, etc., and these things will only drive them towards that outcome.
Yeah, and I think the important thing is, like, you would never be able to have a lot of compassion for an ostrich or a giraffe if you don't have it in your backyard, because you're not seeing them, so you're only learning about them. But you would have a lot more compassion for animals growing up if you're actively taught that this is this animal, that you're seeing in the park, or you're seeing on the tree, or you're seeing around, and you're like, oh, this is the call of a peacock, and then you see the peacock, you show the children this peacock and the myna, and you tell them, oh, mynas are birds that do this. So the children will also get interested into wildlife. But if you're just showing them an animal in a book or a zoo, then that might not foster their connection. So this is a great way. Locally, I think everywhere across the world, if you can get your children to learn about the local birds and the local wildlife, then it is a great way to get them to start liking and loving animals and wildlife.
100%, 100%. And I think, as we have told, um, you know, parents will play that role, that very important role in shaping that worldview, but also schools play that role. And I think schools like this, who are sort of trying to include these kinds of things into um, the curriculum and how the children are taught. They're taking a different approach rather than that kisapita and that trite approach of like just learning things and regurgitating it in an exam paper. I think
Yeah,
it takes some courage, and yeah, like
and and
good
I
step
and I
by
think
that.
that way it's really nice that we started off on the Puffins, which was a really nice story, and we're ending
Like
on this.
community
Yeah,
success
the
story.
community story, and this where we're trying to foster connections in community. So even though we've had some sad topics in between, but at least we have this great topic ending, and we're hoping that we see other places as well, and that kind of fostering. Like, I think we need to kind of instead of to go forward, you have to go backward. That is what has to happen now. So we have to kind of go backward, go back to nature to actually go forward in what kind of development we want. And development doesn't mean having buildings and fancy cities. Development also means being happy, and being happy means being in nature. On that note, obviously, we have a question that how familiar are you with the birds in your backyard, and what is your favorite backyard bird?
Yeah, that's a great question. Let us know in the comments. Again,
What is
as
your
we,
favorite backyard bird? Oops.
I would go for the either the weaver bird or the tailor bird. Tailor bird is a bird that I kind of love. It's a very small bird, razor sharp needle-like beak. It makes its nest by sewing two leaves together, and then it stays inside there. It's a very, very small bird. Grew up with that bird. There were lots. It's called tuntuni in my local language, and um, yeah, we grew up with a lot of those birds around us. But sadly, I personally growing up have seen the decline in the population of those birds as more and more buildings came out around us. The other bird that I loved and was sad to see go from our backyards is the Indian vulture. There was a lot of vultures around because there were a lot of blank lands and there was a lot of cattle that was dying and things like that. Um, so yeah, that's my favorite backyard bird, I would say.
That's nice. That's nice to hear. So, uh, I think everyone should have a backyard bird. For me, even though I like all the birds, I think my two favorites would be peacocks and sparrows. One, primarily, it's not even the peacocks' feathers or how magnificent it looks. It's just its call. If you've heard a
Mm,
peacock's call, it just stands out. And especially at sunset, like they really become active, like all birds chirp, like when they get back home. And the sound of a peacock really like echoes through the trees, and it's beautiful to hear. So for me, it's that and the sparrows, just because they're just so darn cute, and they're just flitting, and they come and just take like one bite out of whatever you're eating, and then they'll go back to, yeah. So I do miss sparrows, I do miss peacocks. We've seen I do see I do still see peacocks sometimes, but sparrows have become rarer and rarer. So that way, it's really sad that you grow up with certain birds, but you do not see them. So it is really, really important that we respect and we try to conserve and we protect, and we don't develop mindlessly at the cost of losing our species.
yeah, very beautifully said. Um, on that note, I think we should kind of start to wrap up as well. I think goes without saying, subscribe to our YouTube channel, give us a follow on all the different platforms we're on. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, TikTok, and Kick. It really helps out a lot if you take the time to follow, and also you know hit that notification button and in YouTube as well. So whenever we go live, you get a notification there. And if you're listening to a recorded version of this podcast, do give us a rating and leave us a review. Again, it helps with the algorithm, and our primary goal is to get these conversations out to as many people as possible so that people are, at the very least, informed about these issues. They're not coming from a place of ignorance when they speak about a topic, or when they are the deciding person in that particular matter. But other than that, I think that's the end of our show today. We'll see you next Sunday, same time, same channel. Have a good one, guys.
Bye bye.